the girl next door, Tammy Sytch, would find the love of professional wrestling at the age of 18, where she would go to a local indie show and meet the love of her life, Chris Candido. The two would be on a fast track to stardom, working their way up from the independent scene all the way up to the WWF. Was the fame too much for the couples? Who was Sunny? Who was Tammy Sytch?
I mean, Tammy and Chris. They were like that starting off, and pretty sure it was love at first sight at that show that Tammy saw Chris in the ring, and it was young love, and they went everywhere together. So, and that includes independent shows and small promotions. So they blew up, and what happened, I don't know.
Sunny and Chris would rise up through the ranks in the WWF. Sunny would become one of the biggest sex symbols in the Attitude Era. Was this the reason for her downfall? The most downloaded, beautiful diva of the 1990s goes from the girl next door to a modern Marilyn Monroe. Cheating, sex scandals, drugs, alcohol. What was the downfall of Sunny?
Wow, well, the downfall of Sunny. That's interesting. I think there's a number of things that contributed to the downfall of Sunny. You know, you think about her relationship with Shawn Michaels, which was pretty frowned upon backstage. And everybody knew what was going on with her and Shawn Michaels, even Chris. I mean, think about it, what could he do, really? He could turn around and beat up the golden boy of the company and lose his job. Or he can just suck it up and, cash his checks. What would you do in that situation? That's the question. Another thing that I think contributed a lot to her downfall was, of course, her drug use, her alcohol intake, which led to where she is today. Which led her where she is today. I mean, you can only have so many bites of the apple until there's no more apple left. And I think she's finally reached her last bite at the apple. And I mean, another thing that I think was a huge nail in her coffin was the arrival of Sable. I think once Sable came through, she was kind of obsolete. She went from being the most downloaded woman on the internet to being, kind of, obsolete. Whenever Vince McMahon brought in Sable, and that pretty much changed up everything. I mean, and it was, her and Sable notoriously didn't like each other. She was a bit jealous of Sable, I think. I mean, because look at it, nice to show you a new toy.
On a cold November night in the year 2022, Sunny would slam into the back of a parked car, killing a man inside. Sunny would then be arrested with a DWI and having 3 times the legal limit of alcohol on her breath.
So did I expect, was it shocking when I found out that Sunny did this crime? I'm going to go out on a limb and say no, I did not think it was shocking. She'd had a few arrests prior to this one in 2022. I didn't think it was shocking when I found out about her DUI and she killed the guy. It was an older guy she killed when she hit him. And then that's where we're at today. I guess we're going to be leading that to this episode.
From sex addiction to alcohol to a DWI, join us tonight as we do our first of our 5-part series inspired by Vice's Dark Side of the Ring. This is the Dark Side of the All Elite Zone podcast, The Cost of Fame. It's all about Sunny. Welcome, everybody, to Talking Elite. We hope you guys are ready for episode 1 of Dark Side of the All Elite Zone. Before I introduce you to my wonderful panel, everybody, please give Connor some love down in the comment section below. He's the one that edited that beautiful video package of some of the guys from the All Elite Zone. And, of course, make sure you guys praise me down there as well because I did my inner Chris Jericho and did my best to portray the narrator. So thank you guys so much for coming out. Hope you guys are ready to talk all about Sunny. Tonight I am joined by the Bearded Wonder. He is everybody's favorite ex-Florida man. He is the Tennessee Wonder. Please welcome Adam to the show.
Hello, thank you. Yes, very excited to get this series started since I'm a huge fan of Dark Side of the Ring. So,
well, if it wasn't for Adam, this series wouldn't be possible. He's the one that came up with the idea. So, thank you, Adam. This is going to be one of the best podcast series that we do.
Yeah, I'm very excited. It's crazy to think that the concept just came to me, and it wasn't as much as trying to plagiarize a show, but just talk more in depth about behind the scenes of pro wrestling, especially the darker times, because there's only so much a TV show can talk about and even show that most of us fans don't get to talk or kind of see.
Yeah, I'm excited, man. Like I said, I'm a huge fan myself of Dark Side of the Ring, and I think a lot of our viewers are as well, so it's going to be a great show tonight. Next, I am joined by the future Bullet Club leader. He is Mike, everybody's favorite Mike. How you doing, brother?
Doing pretty good. How's everyone doing tonight?
It's good to see you, brother. I'm doing well.
Hell yeah.
What do you have a favorite Dark Side of the Ring episode before we start going?
There was a while I was watching the first season, and then we got rid of cable, and I didn't have any streaming stuff. So one of them, the more recent ones I just watched, I really enjoyed was the Junkyard Dog.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was a very interesting episode that they did, and no one really would have known. I didn't honestly, growing up, I never knew how he died until they explained it, the car crash. Mm-hmm. So I thought it was very interesting. And of course, playing Right to Hell. But I think out of the past seasons, my favorite is Collision in Korea.
Yes, that one's a great one too.
Yeah.
I like Collision in Korea. Playing Right from Hell was great. So awesome, man. I'm glad that you're able to be part of this. Thanks for coming on. Awesome. And finally, we have everybody's favorite AEW fan guy. He is the producer, the man behind the All Elite Zone podcast. Please welcome everybody's favorite host, Connor.
How's it going, everyone? This is really an exciting episode. Person we're talking about is pretty, or was exciting, I guess, once upon a time, but we'll get into why she's not excited anymore.
Yeah, it's crazy to see how really the girl next door, one of the biggest wrestling fans, literally the business destroyed her.
I do want to mention there'll be was the video package blurry any that you guys saw?
It was a little blurry here and there in spots.
There will be a better cut uploaded to the channel as a separate video. I'm at a very bad Wi-Fi spot right now, but there will be a better version uploaded to the channel after this is concluded. So,
well, awesome, man. Hey, it turned out really good though. So thank you for doing that. We're gonna do it for all 5 episodes, so it's gonna be a lot of fun, guys. So sit back, relax. If you guys got a cold one, crack it open. Let's talk all about Sunny. So before we get started, I do have my first fun fact for you guys. And I dropped it last night in the watch along if you guys were watching. But I didn't know this, but Sunny did pictures for some of the independent shows in our area. And she actually had them show up in some magazines.
Yeah, I kind of remember hearing about that. And actually she was taking photos during some of Chris's earlier pro wrestling stuff. She was always ringside, either supporting him or basically taking photos. But I kind of knew she had a photography kind of background.
Yeah, it's crazy how a girl in high school would find what we thought was the love of her life, at a wrestling show, and then drop out of college to go work for Jim Cornette.
Yeah, no, they met very young. I think it was while Chris was still finishing up high school, and he was doing the pro wrestling at 18. But he was doing, I guess, he was doing all his high school stuff on top of the wrestling stuff. Tammy was at a show and kind of just fell in love with him after seeing him in the ring. And they started dating literally his last year of high school, and just kind of took off from there.
Did they ever get married, or are they just dating forever?
I believe they were. I think they were in a domestic union. I don't know if they got married, but they were together. Yeah, they were together pretty much all the way up until Chris's passing. Even with all the craziness we're about to talk about, like they were together the whole time. Even though Chris knew everything going on, he still stuck by her. So,
yeah, I'm just amazed at both of them. If you think about it, both of them were such naturals to the industry. Sonny was a natural manager, and then Chris just picked up on wrestling like he was blinking.
Yeah, no, him and a buddy actually got into it in independent scenes in New Jersey, where Chris is from. And basically, they started training in New Jersey. For many people who don't know, he was trained by Larry Sharp, who's a pro wrestling guy out in the East Coast. So basically the New Jersey area. That's pretty much where Chris was trained. Him and his buddy. Let me see if I can find the name of the place here. Larry Sharp's Monster Factory in New Jersey. So that's where he got his start in '86. So you got to think back in '86. That's where WWF was kind of growing. They were, they just had their third annual. They probably had their third annual WrestleMania 3. So that's when more of these smaller independent wrestling things kind of started coming up and everything like that. So
no, it's crazy to see that, like, just the transition, especially with Jim Cornette. I feel like we talk a lot of negative about Jim Cornette nowadays, but Jim Cornette was really the first person that saw something in Sonny and really gave her and Chris their big break, even on Dark Side of the Ring. He gave Sonny and Chris a lot of praise, but it was one of the most heartbreaking things that he ever seen in professional wrestling.
Jim Cornette also, on his podcast, he was talking about, when they came down to Smoky Mountain, that he, at the time, didn't have the budget to sign both of them as a performer. So he actually signed Sonny up as, he's like, hey, how about you, go in as a manager, and I can actually get both of you guys in. And that's how it started. And then they just took off with, was his tag partner, Brian Lee, I think.
Yeah, I think it was Brian Lee.
Yeah. And then they just took off in Smoky Mountain.
Yeah. Crazy. And then, fast forward, they would make their WWF debut. And I can't remember what their tag team name was, but him and Sonny would do a fitness gimmick with Zip. And they looked like
it was Skip. It was Skip was his name.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Skip.
Yes. Yes. Skip and Zip. Yeah.
Skip and Zip.
Mm-hmm.
That they're the stereotypical, 1980s, body lifting. It.
The early 90s was a rough time.
Yeah. Well, actually, it wasn't Zip. It was just Sonny, because that's where the Sonny name came from.
Yeah.
Because when they were in Smoky Mountain Wrestling, her character was kind of this like model after like Hillary Clinton, like this like yes. high elitist that's like, I am better and all of you are dirty and all this, and like that was her character. Her character was talking down to people at every show. So Sonny knew how to portray that character. So when they got to the WWF, I mean, obviously when they got there, it was all character driven. And Vince McMahon had introduced all these wacky kind of characters. You had like characters like Doink the Clown and Papa Shango and all these different characters. I mean, this was 95. So you had, Ultimate Warrior. You had all these characters. And here comes Sonny and Tammy and Chris. And Vince goes, you know what? You're bodybuilder. You're gurus. You're fitness gurus. Let's do it. Like, and that was it. Like,
It's just crazy to see like one of the best wrestlers, one of the most, I think, talked about ECW icons aside from Sandman and Dreamer, don a fitness gimmick and just be very over the top. It's great. It's the evolution of Chris alone is just fantastic. And then Sunny, of course, like going from that to everybody's like, probably everybody had a poster on her wallet, their wall at some point, back when, Adam bought his first computer, he probably waited 2 hours just to download a picture of Sunny in a bikini.
oh man, dude, I tell you, you know what? Sunny was one of she redefined what the term diva was back in that day. But a lot of people don't know this, but she was also trained to wrestle too, just in case. And she was actually trained by Chris, by actually Jim Cornette, and a lot of people don't know this, by Kevin Sullivan as well.
Oh, I forgot she was trained by Sullivan.
Yeah, she was trained by Kevin Sullivan. So she had 3 strong pro wrestling minded people training her. As much grief as I give Jim Cornette, he does give Chris Candido praise, and I enjoyed Chris Candido in his early days. I really feel he really shined like in the independent stuff. And then he came through in WWE, and he kind of took like a back seat to Sunny. So, but I give Jim a lot of credit for praising people that deserve the praise. So that's where I kind of keep my positivity towards Jim Cornette. For the other part, I can give or take if I listen to Jim Cornette a lot. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think also too, now it's time for my second fun fact that I said in our intro. Sunny became the most downloaded woman, not just in WWE, but on the internet at the time in 1996.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody
Playboy
wanted a taste of
magazine.
Sunny. What's up? Sorry to say, Connor.
Playboy magazine.
Playboy magazine. And that wasn't the first time she did some scandalous content too. I can't wait. Dude, I'm so excited to get to that part of the episode because I don't think Connor knows about the...
I think I know what you're I think I know what you're
Yeah.
there's a lot about Sunny that some people may or may not know about Sunny.
Yeah, she was, especially towards like the last 20 years, she's been kind of a little loose cannon more than Brian Pillman.
Well,
Mike,
yeah, no.
It's
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're good. Good. Good, Adam.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I think it started way before the last 20 years. I think it started when she finally got her first, like, big paycheck from WWF. Like, she really showed her true side, even while being with Chris. You know what I mean? So I think it really showed even before then.
Yeah.
that was
I'm just
to
curious.
give her
Yeah. It's sad to give her that much money, and then of course look at all the people she had backstage. Look how many of them were addicted to the same substances that she has not been able to get rid of to this day. Mike, do you have any great moments that you liked from Sunny and Chris during their first run in WWE?
So when they were the Body Donnas, I don't remember much because I was pretty young. Even though it was like 95, 90, 94, 95, stuff like that. But I have a little more of like when she came back with the Road Warriors as LOD 2000. That's when I started knowing who Sunny was. Even though it was a short stint,
Yeah.
before she went to ECW and stuff.
She did manage a few other teams though too. I know, of course, LOD. She managed the Smoking Guns.
That's right. I forgot about that. Looking back in history, that's right. Bart and Billy.
Yep.
Well, you also got to remember, she wasn't just team. She also managed Farouk for a while, too.
Oh, yeah.
Back in the day.
Farouk.
So.
I forgot she managed Farouk. Man. She was like the Paul Heyman of, the Paul Heyman of the 1990s before Paul Heyman became the Advocate.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And unfortunately, the sad part is that time frame, her and Chris, unfortunately, both got hooked on narcotics and drinking and some other stuff. And then that would also lead her into having her first affair of possible many. She would have an affair with the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels.
Yeah, no, I remember hearing about that, and I'm like, the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, having an affair with. That's why some of these callbacks, like later in Shawn's life, when people are like, I can't remember who it was, but there was a promo against Shawn, and someone mentioned like you were living the sunny side of life, like back in the '90s, like, and I'm like, oh, like I caught on to it as a kid. I didn't really understand it, but later as an adult, when you hear the callback, you're like, oh, that makes sense now. Okay, I understand that now. So, yeah, that's basically the gist of, hey, you want to rise in this company or in this industry, who do you align yourself with? And it's the big name on top, which was Shawn Michaels, who was the Intercontinental Champion at the time. So
she really thought he was a sexy boy. You know?
Wasn't
That's
that
when
part
we
of a
came up.
rumor too? Is how when Sonya was like sleeping with Shawn, that there was a rumor that she was also sleeping with Brett, but she left for Shawn, and that's like one of the hundreds of things why they didn't want to work together. Is they were
yeah, no,
fighting over
that was called the Sunny Days promo, because they started accusing of each other, and that actually led to real life like heat between Shawn and Brett. Like in real life, was that kind of promo.
Right.
I believe that was '97. I think was an episode of Raw, and that was going on
right before he left.
Yeah, that was right before the whole debacle of the frickin' Montreal screw job, you know. So, but yeah, no, there was real animosity between Brett and Shawn because of that, because they started accusing one another of infidelity with Tammy, all because like Brett was married. Like, I don't think Shawn at the time was married. So it's like, how could you blame a married guy for having an affair with Tammy, but you're single? Like, and you're invading a couple's like thing, like you're stealing from another guy behind his back.
Also, I heard rumors that Chris was okay with it.
Yeah.
But do you think it was just because he didn't want to lose her?
I think that we talk about like everybody who has their addiction, especially back in the days, like especially after the steroid trial, and then the other addictions happen with the pro wrestlers. I mean, love and sex. I mean, that's an addiction for a lot of people, you know. And I think it was Chris's obsession. He's like, I didn't want, because Chris felt like he's been with her so long that, you know, it's like, I understand she's doing it, but I can't break her. Also, probably because they were both under the influence of a lot of drugs. So they kind of just, you know, ignored it. Which is weird, because it's funny we bring up Jim Cornette, because we should do a podcast on him too. I'd love, because I'm split on him. But the rumor back then too was Jim Cornette let a lot of the wrestlers at his wife as well, and he watched. So I kind of compare it to that, where Chris is like, he knew Tammy was cheating on him, but he didn't do anything because he felt at the end of the day, she's still coming home with me, blah, blah, blah. So
that's sad. Like, I don't judge anybody's relationship, and you do you, but I don't think I could handle that. You know, even if it was a chance to get me a bigger spot on the card, like, I don't think I can handle seeing the girl that I basically was a high school sweetheart with, like basically grew as a professional wrestler with, sleep around with my coworkers. I don't think I can handle that.
I mean, that was just the norm back in the day, you know.
Like, do you know what they call people like that in wrestling?
What?
Like that basically sleep around and stuff. Ring rats.
Ring rats. Fair enough. I don't think Sunny was a ring rat. I'd say she's more of a ring poodle.
Well, no, I'm saying like some people actually, like, they're fans trying to get in the wrestling business, and they're just, I don't know. It's definitely something. Back then, that was probably like I didn't know that, but I'm just saying that Jim Cornette would just watch.
I mean, that was just the rumor. I don't know if it's true, but the rumor was that Jim Cornette basically passed his wife around. I don't know if it's true. That's just what I heard. And if Jim, if you're hearing this, please come clear with it. I'd love to hear the true story. Because I do like you, man. I mean, I loved you when you had the tennis racket and you'd beat people up with it. So if Jim watches this, I'd like to know the story and history with Jim Cornette, because I just remember him as a wrestling personality. Just like I remember, Tammy as Sonny or Chris Candido as the wrestler. You're like, all this stuff that comes out of backstage stuff and rumors and all this stuff that end up being true, or, other personalities saw it behind closed doors. It's like, yeah, I kind of want to know the truth, and it's very hard to, especially with what's going on, with her and Chris being gone. So it's like, you never know.
For sure. Especially with Sonny too, because think about it, she wasn't able to be part of Dark Side of the Ring because of her legal counsel. They don't want to make a worse case for her.
Yeah, which was sad because it seemed like after Chris passed, she was trying to turn her life around, because read somewhere in 2007, she was trying to go back to school for medical technology. So she was trying to do something, once wrestling kind of fizzled out for her. But, she, and according to her, she claimed she had a 9-month relationship with Shawn Michaels. So during that time, and the fact that Chris just kind of swept it under the rug, I don't know. It just, like it says, I think he knew, but he just didn't want to admit to it.
Very sad. Very sad for sure. Well, Chris would shortly after.
Oh, I was going to ask, when did Chris Candido die?
2005.
Yep.
For any of those, I don't know. I know because we're mostly focused on Sonny, but for people that don't know about the Chris Candido, he was pretty much diagnosed with something in like his in his.
He had pneumonia.
Yeah. But he was brought on by surgery because he had surgery after he broke his leg. He was wrestling a match in TNA, and he got his foot caught on the cameraman inside the 6-sided cage, which they used to do back in the day, which I'm glad they got rid of, and it's just a normal cage now. But back then, he got his foot cut off caught up with the camera guy, and it broke. So he had emergency surgery, which sucked because he was back in the ring. He was in better shape. He was clearing things up. He was getting back in the industry. He was
already clean.
He was cleaned up. He wasn't doing drugs anymore, and he was setting a right path. And unfortunately, according to the episode of Dark Side of the Ring, according to some people that thinks why it happened was he broke his leg, had the surgery, and he flew out like a day after the surgery, even though they told him not to, because the high altitudes can mess with the blood in surgery, like a surgery performance you shouldn't travel for a while. But he did the next day to appear at TNA, and it just the blood clot actually crawled up from his surgery on his leg and caused an pneumonia, and he died from it. So
very sad for sure. And we'll talk about it more because before that, Sonny and Chris actually were both clean. It wasn't until Chris's death, Sonny went back on the wrong track again. So it's very sad for sure. But after a little stunt in WWE, Chris would be the first person to leave, and Sonny would stay around until 1998 when she'd be let go because she refused to go to rehab.
Yeah, no. I mean, give as much hate as you want to Vince and to everybody in WWE, back WWF, where they let a lot of things slide. But the one thing they tried to do their best at, minus the whole 1999 over the edge incident with Owen, was the health of wrestlers and the well-being of wrestlers, especially those that had drug problems. That, even nowadays you see pro wrestlers suspended because of, the drug policy. I honestly think that policy came about because of all the incidents that WWF had back in the 90s. On top of that, of the plane ride from hell with all the drug use on the plane and the drinking and all that stuff, that's where that started too. But someone like Sunny, who really needed it because according to some stories of how wild she would get while on drugs, just was amazing. And the fact that she was offered it and said no, it's very, and I hate to bring them up because it's not similar, but it's, an incident kind of like it is, like Jeff Hardy, in TNA when he had his problems and he kind of ignored it, and we had the whole debacle of him and Sting at that, whatever that pay-per-view was. I keep forgetting what it was. And he still refused to go, so they suspended him. I think the options are there, and especially if these people value their lives, they take it. Tammy, though, back then, she didn't care.
Yeah, it's sad, but she would then make her way to ECW, and Paul Heyman. Like, from what I was reading, Paul Heyman would bring her on as manager for Chris, but then also she was a backstage producer. I had no idea that she was helping produce ECW back in the day.
That's news to me.
Yeah, no, that's
I
when.
didn't know that either.
Yeah. Chris went over there too. Chris Candido went over there. But she helped a little bit of backstage, and actually, it was great because Candido and Stitch feuded with Lance Storm and Dawn Marie, but Dawn Marie was introduced to his own valet. Was a parody of her called Tammy Lynn Bitch.
Oh,
But it was spelled BYTCH, and so they feuded with that. And Chris actually beat Lance Storm in a match, and they feuded, but within the year, because of more drug use, they were suspended. They weren't suspended, but they were taken off TV again because of their drug addiction.
and it's sad because during that time frame too, she had her first arrest too, and she broke her restraining order and went to her mom's house and got arrested, and then she posted bail the next day. And then, yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm sure there was a lot. Hell, I think even during one part of the one episode that they did on Chris and Tammy, or maybe not even, it was just they were just talking about like, they were in the car and one guy's like looked at Chris and said, "Dude, you've got to get rid of her. Like, she's just bringing you down, and she's got an issue. Like, she's crazy, and she's accusing me of stuff that is not true, and she's acting up in the back seat." And I think the police were actually called to it, and they were both, asked if they wanted to press charges, and I guess it just went, no, we're good. So that was like the start of like all the legal problems.
Yeah. Do you guys want to talk about her infamous interview and bikini video package that she did for ECW?
I remember when she did the photo shoot.
So Paul Heyman is a genius, right? Paul Heyman comes up with this great idea right after she got back from being suspended. She then would talk about real things on ECW, and then they would show throughout the whole interview pictures of her in scandalous outfits and bikinis.
Well, that
It's just wild to me.
was ECW.
That was ECW.
That was ECW. And
That sums it up right
in
now.
that time, I guess besides Dawn Marie, or it was Dawn Marie and Francine, like they were the main two that
Yeah,
sex symbol to
Yeah.
ECW.
they were.
But,
Yeah,
Sonny coming in, she was basically like that in WWE, so she would fit that mold, I guess, to fit that kind of role.
well, it's always that whole like, who's the next big bombshell we can get that the audience would look at because they're gorgeous. And first it was Sable overtaking Sunny because Sunny had lost all that aura about her, especially with her drug use, and then they're released, and then she comes to ECW and thinks she's the next big thing female wise in ECW. And I think that kind of just like, and I'm sure she walked backstage. Now again, I'm just assuming, again, probably shouldn't do it, but still, I'm sure the women that were there, you had Francine, you had Dawn Marie, I think you still had Beulah, I think was still there. I'm trying to remember other Kimona, Wanalea. That was her name, by the way. This is a great name.
Wasn't Medusa still there too?
I can't remember if she was. She might have been with WCW at that time. But those were the women that were there, these sex symbols in ECW. And then here comes Sunny, now I'm sure she was backstage in the locker room saying, I'm Sunny. I'm a big deal. Y'all can just stand back from me because my presence is like, I feel like that would have been her attitude, from stories that you hear from professional wrestlers and bookers and people that are in the industry, that she had this attitude that she was all high and mighty and she was on a lot of drugs.
Oh man, she literally was sex, drugs, and rock and roll, wasn't she?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Chris would then, him and Sonny, Tammy would go over to WCW for a cup of coffee. I really don't remember them much in WCW. You guys? I don't remember.
I didn't even know she was in WCW till now.
It was like a brief stint. I don't think it was like less than, I think, 2 months. Adam, do you remember how long they were in WCW for?
They debuted in 2000. Well, Chris debuted first, and then Tammy debuted a month after him. And they had a couple of feuds. And Chris actually won the Cruiserweight Championship in WCW.
Really?
Yeah, that was his only title in WCW, was the Cruiserweight Championship. He lost it again. He dropped the title. And once he lost the title, they were dropped from the company again because of their drug use and their legal stuff. So again, but again, I don't know if it was all Chris. I think it was mostly all Sunny people were worried about. And because Chris is associated with, Tammy, then if she's going, you got to go too. Sorry. That's just how it is, so.
And it's crazy because, so I watched another documentary on her today. She cursed out Eric Bischoff because Eric Bischoff lost her drug test that was supposed to be negative.
Between both of those people, I don't know who to believe at all. I mean,
good point.
I kind of remember hearing that story before, that she yelled at Bischoff. I didn't know it was for a drug test.
As a side question, Mike, what's your take on Eric Bischoff while we're talking about him?
God, that's so. What he did in '95 was smart. It was good. Him going behind the scenes after that and really watering down the NWO and then letting everyone, really backing up everyone, especially Hogan, with this creative control clause, was bad for business. it was really bad for business. And I thought, I'm not saying it's Russo, it's not him, it's not Hogan that tanked WCW. It was a collective of all of them and their decisions. He was at a bright mind at the right place at the right time, because what was WWF doing back in '95? Manitar, Doink the Clown, the Body Donnas, like we're talking about, they had the gimmicks. And what happened when Bischoff really was taking control, he brought in realism with the NWO. He did the takeover angle. Smart. Awesome. I praise the guy for that. Then later, 98 to 2001, to the final days of WCW, it's like, what are you doing? You approved the New Blood angle. You approved Russo to go in. You guys butted heads. You guys couldn't get on the same page. So it's a 50-50. I loved him as general manager of Raw. When he showed up, I was shocked.
Yeah, and the reason I ask is because I'm assuming you saw the episode of Dark Side with Bash at the Beach 2000.
Yes.
So
I saw the YouTube edited version. So
yeah. So part of it.
Go ahead.
That's why I asked that's why I asked about Bischoff, because between Tammy's assumption that Bischoff lost the form that said she was tested negative for drugs, and Eric Bischoff saying, no, you tested positive, you're fired, you really don't know who to believe, because one's a drug addict and one's a master manipulator, money grubbing executive guy who just wants money and to beat his rival, which honestly, fine, that's fine. But when you, Russo and Hogan, both kill a company, you can't all of a sudden
you lose credibility.
You lose credibility for anything you say. But the same can go for Tammy, because Tammy has been suspended, has been in trouble with the law because of her drug use. So when you say a head of a company lost my paperwork, I think you did it on purpose, that's why I was let go, you've lost credibility, because it's not your first time being let go of a wrestling company because of your drug addiction. ECW let you go because of your drug addiction. WWF let you go because of your drug addiction, because you wouldn't go to rehab. So it's kind of like between those two figureheads, kind of like those two people like butting heads about it. I think it's ridiculous. They're both at fault. I think they're both at fault.
I think I would side with Bischoff on this, because this is around the time he was actually off air and he was more backstage dealing with things. And like you just mentioned, in perfect example, this was before the whole Bash at the Beach happened, or the fall of WCW completely, till the nail in the coffin. But she's coming in with all these prior convictions, like you said. So I have to cite that I think you tested positive for drugs, we're letting you go. And she's just going to mouth off about it, because she, at the end of the day, she was always Sunny. She was Tammy Lynn Sitch. You can't do that to me. I'm Tammy. That's how her mentality was. So I have to side with Bischoff on it. Even though it's 50-50, I have to side with him on it.
And then, they would both go to the independent scene in Japan. They wrestled there for a little bit, and then they would actually start getting sober. There was actually a time where Sonny and Chris, before Chris passed away, they were both sober. But unfortunately, in 2005, when Chris was with TNA Impact Wrestling, Chris would unfortunately die from a compilation due to his leg surgery. And I think that's really where Sonny's another start of her second part of her downfall. I feel like if it wasn't for Chris dying, I think she would have been clean.
Yeah, I think another thing with that was after Chris passed, Sonny kind of faded, because it was Chris that basically got her into the pro wrestling stuff. And I think with him gone, her path kind of like dwindled. And, you see all these wrestlers from the past showing up at Hall of Fame ceremonies and shows and doing all these signings. I don't think Tammy was that kind of person after, after Chris passed. And, she was doing all these shows. They did a Chris Candido memorial show at a wrestling place. Then she was part of Hardcore Homecoming. I think that was TNA that did that. ECW did. ECW did an extreme, a hardcore homecoming in 2005, and they paid tribute to wrestlers that passed, and I'm pretty sure they paid tribute to Chris. I think with that, I think with Tammy doing all this independent stuff, she kind of just lost her way and just kind of fell back into her old habit of drug use.
I feel like she was masking it well, because from about 2005 to 2011, it seemed like she, at least on the presence of the WWE and what we were seeing on TV and the independent scene, she was on the Raw anniversary show. She did a gimmick match on there, and then she would do at WrestleMania 25. She was in the female battle royale. Was that battle royale? I can't remember. Was that battle royale? Was that Legends or like a female? Was it like Legends or was that?
I think it was the Miss WrestleMania.
Oh, is that where?
Yeah, it was the 25. It was the 25 Diva Battle Royal.
Is that where Santina won?
Santina.
Sorry, Santina. My apologies, Miss Santina. I'm so sorry to get you confused with your brother.
Which, side note, he's doing great stuff in Impact right now, and I freaking love it. I love watching clips of him. DOA. It's great. It's just great. It is so good.
His theme song's so ridiculous. It's like the whole 60s detective music.
Yeah, I know, but I love it.
Oh. But yeah, I think, wasn't that the year that she got inducted to the Hall of Fame as well?
2011 is when she would get inducted.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So she would get inducted. Yeah.
And she looked healthy there.
Oh, she looked glowing.
She looked like she was in a better place. She was arrested. I don't know if she was arrested or ticketed a year after that introduction to the Hall of Fame. But
it was a year.
Yeah. So she was doing, even after WWE, she was still making. She made appearances at a couple of independent shows. If I can read here, she made an appearance at Dynamite Championship Wrestling's 9-year anniversary event in 2012.
ROH.
She was the host. She was the host of the event. She made an appearance at Pennsylvania Premier Wrestling in Pennsylvania. So, and she did do an ROH show in 2008, it looks like. But she had opened a Diva school. Larry Sweeney, he announced that he opened a Diva school and he invited her to be a trainer, and she would consider it. I don't think she ever accepted it.
Wow, I didn't know that. Huh. Would you really want to learn, how to manage from Sunny or be a wrestler from Sunny?
I don't know. That'd be a big gamble. I don't know.
Yeah.
A very big gamble.
Well, unfortunately, the time that she would get inducted into the Hall of Fame, that's when everything just snowballed even worse. So she would start drinking and getting heavily back into drugs again around that time frame. Did you guys know that she was arrested 3 days in a row in 2011? Oh, 5 days in a row.
No, she was arrested 5 times in a 4-week span.
Was that for like stalking or something like that?
Disorderly conduct, burglary, and violating protective order.
Yeah.
Golly.
Yeah. She was really trying to break records there.
People be crazy out there.
Who did she hate?
I think
so
it was.
much?
No, I think it was a protective order from her mother, because her mother, back in the 90s, her mother put a protective order against her because of everything.
I'll say which person, because there's 2 that had the string order on her.
Well, it was her mother, and who's the second one? Lane?
It was like Damian something. It was Damian. Hold on. It was Damian Darling. He was an independent wrestler that she had gone back after she had broken up with a police officer.
That's right.
I think that she's a psycho.
No, and she was. I don't know why he stuck with her, but like that was the second restraining order she broke. Like she literally would go on a binge and then would literally go stalk her ex-boyfriend. He literally had to put a restraining order. And then they started working things out. And then she would go crazy again and actually get arrested for domestic abuse.
Yeah, she was arrested a 6th time in 2013 for a protective order. That's where she got arrested for that one.
Is it true or not? I saw an interview that her and Dolph Ziggler had a relationship.
It should have been me. Damn, it should have been me.
I remember it was I can't remember the guy, but she said like Dolph Ziggler had a concussion, and she was like they were in the nearby town and they met up, and I guess she likes guys with blonde hair. I don't know. Dolph Ziggler, Shawn Michaels.
Chris Candido.
Well, if you think about it, Dolph really looks a lot like Candido, at least when it comes to his in-ring style. Probably very similar. So that's I wonder if that actually was true. But she would then spend 100 days in jail. And then, of course, WWE, during that time frame between that, she would go to rehab, I think, at least 3 or 4 different times that WWE paid for her to go. And she just, nothing clicked for her.
That's what Jimmy Havoc did. They offered him some type of rehab center thing, but he declined. And, it sucks that some people don't want to get help.
Yeah, it's really sad. It's sad what the wrestling business did to her, but do you think it was kind of her own fault?
I mean, people always say like, what's that term I'm looking for? It's basically the gist of it is only you can control what you do, and you can't put the blame on others for bad mistakes that you make. Was there influences from professional wrestling that probably, maybe, yeah, absolutely. But ultimately, I think it was Tammy. I mean, especially after getting out of the wrestling limelight, it was up to her to change her life. And, when you get arrested 5 times in 4 weeks, and then you get arrested 3 more times for DUI, which was happened to her in 2015, and then you get arrested again for 2 more DUIs. Like, I understand you have your vices, but you got to remember, it's very hard because you watch interviews with wrestlers growing up in the 90s, and they say about everything that happened behind the doors, like the drug use, the steroid stuff, vices that they'd have, it's very hard to break away from that because you fall back to it. It's the only thing you know. And it's very hard to break that habit. So I think it was a 50-50. I'd say actually 70-30. 30% I would contribute to the limelight of pro wrestling and everything and the fame, and 70% of it was Tammy's own demise for herself. Like, she just couldn't kick her vices. And I think that's pretty much what led to where she's at now. So...
Do you guys want to hear my last Sunny fact before we kind of talk about her life in prison that could happen?
Yeah, what's your last fact?
Sunny, in the middle of all of her DUIs and assaults, would release a porn movie called Sunny in the Back Door.
Oh, yeah.
I thought it was Sunny Side Up.
It was, I think, wait. Yeah, I think it was one of those two. Yeah, Sunny Side.
I think it was the second one.
Yeah, Sunny
It's
Side.
the second one.
But people have to remember, like I said, like Connor said, she did Playboy. But then also, if anybody remembers Miss Hyatt had a website in like the early 2000s, and like Tammy was on there. So, like, it was even before that, like, she was there. But it just amazes me. It's like, with all this legal stuff, like, that's what you wanted to do. And she was getting residuals for it to pay for all her court stuff.
Yes.
She's like, I got to find a way to pay all this court stuff because I'm an idiot and I can't keep myself out of trouble. Oh, I know what I'll do. I was the hottest downloaded diva back in the day. I'll do an adult video. Okay. Good luck with that. You still have your choice to fix your life up outside of that. like
if
how
she
much
would
you
done
kick
it,
your device?
if she would have done that kind of stuff years ago in her prime, she would have made a lot more money. But now,
Oh, dude,
That's
she's
not even
been
worth it.
killing OnlyFans.
It's not even worth it now. Oh yeah, she does have an OnlyFans. My uncle actually met her
Wait, what?
at a WrestleCade.
I was
2020,
joking.
2020.
Oh.
He met her and she gave him like a booklet thing of her OnlyFans, and I guess it was her boyfriend said it's some hot shit or something. I don't know. And then like I don't know who the guy was. I guess it was her boyfriend or whatever, and he was handing out brochures of her
Oh.
OnlyFans, and
Oh
man, it's one way to get people to know. But
Yeah,
Did
so
you
if
guys-
anyone wants to support her new court battle fees,
my.
There you go.
$30 a month right there, guys.
Yeah.
Do you guys know she was arrested in 2022 for making like terrorist threats?
Wait, I didn't
Oh
know
my
this
God.
one. What?
Yeah. So she was arrested in
What was
January
that?
13th in New Jersey for unlawfully possessing a weapon and making terroristic threats. She was booked in the county institute, but released the following day after being ordered to check in weekly with the court. They stem from an incident in which she allegedly threatened to murder an intimate partner with a pair of scissors.
oh, I remember that story that she was gonna.
Oh.
I believe that's the guy that I saw her with her. I think he's a wrestler, actually.
Oh
The
my
guy that
gosh.
she was with, or whoever she was trying to chop off someone's.
She was
Tony
gonna,
Ramos.
she was gonna bob it. She was
Give
gonna Lorraine bob
give
it.
like a home bisectomy.
This is a way too young of a group to know what I'm talking about with Lorraine Bobbitt. Does anybody know what I'm mentioning?
No.
Wasn't she the one that cut it off and threw it on the side of the road?
Yeah. So
Oh, gosh.
So side story, Lorraine Bobbitt.
Who
This was a
her
big
husband?
90.
He was like a big deal. Her husband was like a big deal.
Her husband, I guess, like was infidelity. Like he cheated on her. She found out about it, chopped his dick off, ran from the house while driving and threw it out a window while driving. And so she had to go with the police officers to help them find it.
Oh my
I
gosh.
think he was a mobster,
Oh.
wasn't he?
I can't remember. I was
She's a
such
monster.
yeah. So that's why it made me say Lorraine Bobbitt.
All right.
Which is another good show since we talk about Dark Side of the Ring, Dark Side of the 90s. Is another
Oh
great
man,
show on
I'm gonna have to
Vice.
go watch that one too.
Oh yeah, that's good.
Didn't they do like Dark Side of '90s, Dark Side of Hip Hop, and like?
Dark Side of comedy. They do everything now. It's great.
Oh wow! Hey, gotta thank the Dark Side of the Ring guys. Shout out to those guys because
Yep.
they inspired a whole channel of content for Vice.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well,
Call
This
some
brings-
people's jobs too.
good point. That brings us up to last year's incident in November. She would have
It was-
three. Fred,
I thought it was March.
there was one in November, wasn't that? Or that's when she got convicted.
Uh,
I want to say it was November. That's in the
no,
article.
January. Are you talking about the crash that she's in jail for now?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was that happened on March 25th, 2022.
Ooh, gotcha.
You're talking about she wasn't brought in until August through November, one of those.
Yeah. So that's when she
No.
got.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Because November was when they brought her in and was getting ready to convict her. Correct.
I think so.
Well.
I don't know, but continue.
Anyways, yeah. So she would unfortunately get behind the wheel of a car after having 3 times the legal limit on her breath. Slam into the back of a parked car, killing a 75-year-old grandpa. And unfortunately, right now, she is still sitting in jail waiting for if she's going to get life in jail or she's going to be out in 30 to 60.
Yeah, her initial bond was $227,500 was her initial bond for that. She
Yeah,
was
people-
released on that, but the judge deemed her too dangerous and revoked her bond 6 days, and she returned to jail. So just recently, up until recently, August 16th was the most recent one. She pleaded no contest. So now, like you said, she's waiting to see the charges. And like you said, and someone posted in the comments, she could be facing up to almost 25 years in jail.
Kind of sad, isn't it, that one of the sweetest girls that started in a small town, that was a huge fan of professional wrestling, destroyed not just her life, but Chris Candido's life as well, for a good chunk of his portion of life. So, Sonny, if we hope that you do get better. We hope that this is a good place for you to cool down and get your life back in order, because we want the girl next door back. We want the real Tammy, not Sonny.
So 2 things I will say. One, in my eyes, and I hope I get called out. I hope I get proven wrong on this, but I don't know if Tammy can turn her life around right now. And 2, I will quote Jim Cornette from the episode that they did on her, that her legacy is a meteoric rise and a meteoric fall. So, we talk about it, but like for me, growing up in that era of pro wrestling and, seeing a woman like Sonny on TV for wrestling, it kind of did usher in the idea of a diva, because if it wasn't for her, and I'll even credit Sable, if it wasn't for them, I don't think you'd have this idea of women being main performers on pro wrestling or being brought into the limelight of pro wrestling. Because then you got the introduction of people like Trish Stratus and Lita and Victoria. They came and actually did matches. So you really couldn't say that if it wasn't for the jumpstart of Sonny as the original diva, I would say, I don't think you would have a women's revolution that you would in pro wrestling today.
I agree with that.
Very well said.
Very well said, Adam. Mike, Connor, do you guys have anything left to say before we wrap things up?
She's going to be facing a pretty big wall of charges. Florida doesn't mess around. She was on her 3rd strike. It's the sun might have set it on that one, unfortunately. But she could probably post bond and she could rack up her subscriptions on OnlyFans. Sorry, I had to throw one more in there.
No, that was really good. Connor, what about you? Any last words?
I do want to. I don't know the guy personally, but the guy that died in the accident. That's really heartbreaking to see an older guy, just die like that, just because someone is on have drug issues and alcohol issues. I don't know if she will turn it around. It's kind of, even if she does, she probably will spend the rest of her life in prison if she does change around. It won't be. We won't see it if she does, because she's had a lot of DUIs and a lot of stuff over the years. I don't know. Hopefully she'll prove us wrong, but it's going to be a rocky road. Like I said in the video package, it's going to be a rocky road for her.
Yeah. Well, guys, that is going to do it on our episode for Sonny, Tammy Sytch. We'd like to thank everybody for checking us out on the All Elite Zone podcast. If this is your first time watching, make sure you guys hit the bell down below and hit subscribe. We do weekly watch-alongs to Dynamite, Rampage, and Collision. We also do Talking Elite here every Thursday, and we have our other talk show, AEZ Canada, every Saturday. So we have a lot of great content. We're doing a lot of great episodes. Next week, we are going to have a fun episode talking about something that Dark Side of the Ring has not covered yet. We are going to be talking about Ted DiBiase Jr. Adam came up with the idea, so it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm super excited for this one because, I remember watching him briefly when I first got into wrestling and talk about the DiBiase family. We'll talk about both him and his dad. So it's going to be a very fun episode. I cannot wait to get into that one.
Yeah, I'm
I
very
can't believe
excited.
we
It's-
got us-
Go ahead, Connor.
I was going to say, I can't believe we got a topic that I'm actually involved in. Dark side of the Ollies, and I'm actually involved in that.
Yeah. So it's going to get personal. I'm excited.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm very excited just because I actually not only watched Ted DiBiase Jr. when he debuted, but I remember his dad. I remember watching his dad as a kid.
Yeah.
So it's like everyone's got a price. And $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, remember growing up watching him. So it's going to be an exciting episode to talk about.
I'm super excited for that one. Thank you, Adam, for coming up with the idea. I'm going to announce episode 3 tonight as well. Episode 3. And I got the idea from our conversation talking about Sonny during the Attitude Era. We're going to talk dark side of the Attitude Era. We're going to talk about everything from some of the things that happened backstage to a lot of the issues. We're going to revisit some of the stuff probably from the Iron Sheik episode. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm super excited for that one as well. So we got 2 big shows coming back to back for you guys for the All Elite Zone. It's going to be awesome. Connor, do you have any announcements that are coming up? Any interviews?
Not any new ones, but we announced it on the live reaction that former TNA star, former WWE star, NWA star, I guess you'd say, the Pope, Elijah Burke in WWE. He will be on here October 4th, an hour before Dynamite, 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern. So if you guys have any questions you'd like to ask him, he'll answer them. Please keep them wrestling related and PG. We don't want any guests, never want to come back on here. So please keep it wrestling related and PG if you can. But yeah, if you guys just want to watch, you're free to do so. But yeah, that's the only special guest announcements that I have so far.
Oh, man. So we got a lot of fun coming up here very shortly. So thank you, everyone, for making Talking Elite my favorite day of the week on Thursday. So you guys have been great tonight. We hope that Sonny does change her life around. And we'll see you guys next week for Talking Elite, all on the $1 Million Man Jr., Ted DiBiase Jr. If there's nothing left to be said, I think it's time for Adam's famous words.
And as always, everybody, good night.